All right, all right. What is up, everybody? Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Coffee and Coaching. I'm super pumped for today's conversation, today's episode. We've got the one and only Ralph Nudi on with us, and man, who knows where we're gonna go? I know we got a lot of stuff. I know Ralph's got a lot of stuff that we're wanting to jump in and share and chat, and so. Really looking forward to today's conversation. Ralph, what's up, man?
How are you?
I'm doing good, brother. It looks like you are doing a little bit better than me. I love the background there.
Oh man, it's a great day. We took a drive up to Orlando just for a couple of days so that we could take the kids to Disney and all that stuff. You know how that is. Actually went to Universal this time, but they're on their spring break. Although spring break doesn't happen for grown-ups, kids don't understand that yet. But you know, we're blessed enough to have a life where we're able to take those days off and do that. But the funny thing is, living here in Florida, they can't wait to get home because home is where the real vacation seems to be nowadays.
Yeah, that's funny. That's what with Jay and moving over to Puerto Rico. That's what he said. He said the kids, like, it's every day, like they want to go home, right? I mean, it's just they don't want to leave. It's every day's every day's like vacation.
It's been a miraculous move. I was nervous to do it. I mean, imagine leaving where you've lived your whole life to go try something else somewhere new. It's scary, and most people honestly don't have the guts to do it. They talk about it, but they never pull the trigger on it. And you know, one of the things that Tony Robbins talks about, you know, from early on is, you know, the ability to take action is what gets you somewhere in life. And one day last year during the pandemic, when we were all locked down, and life was a little more miserable than normal up in the north, I said, let's we've got a good life, don't get me wrong, but let's take some massive action and live the dream life that we wanted to live. And it was a tough move, but it was worth it.
Yeah. So what the heck sparked that thought? I mean, I know you and I were working together even before then, but you know, when you told me, like, I'm out of here, I'm like, all right, let's get the plan in place. What are we doing? So
well, first of all, John, you deserve a medal for patience as a coach, right? I got to say that, you know, because here we're going along, and for those of you watching, John had been my coach at this point in time for about a year and a half, and I had an entire game plan in place, and we were in the process of executing. We were executing one thing after another. I come back from a couple of weeks vacation, and we go to our next coaching session. I said, John, everything stops. I'm pulling the plug on my personal production here in Wisconsin, and I'm moving to Florida. And the look on John's face was, you know, John's always supportive. So the look on your face was like, well, that sounds like a very interesting idea. And he's looking at me like he didn't want to tell me, Ralph, you're nuts. But I know you were thinking that for at least in the beginning. But then I told you the plan that I had in place for everything, for Nudy on the beach, which we're going to get to, for scratch agents. And I think after 2 conversations, you realize that I had enough of a vision laid out that I was going to be able to pull it off.
Yeah, that's so important, right? I think for everybody listening in, there was a vision there, right? It wasn't just, you know, like, it was very thought through. We know the vision, we have the goal, we know what we're trying to do. It's not that I'm not just waking up one morning and just blindly, hey, loading up the car and heading south. It was really thought through, and there was a real clear vision there. And so, man, I would love for you to kind of unpack that a little bit for everybody about what that vision was and what it looked like.
Okay, so it was really thought through, but for those of you watching, it was thought through in a very short period of time. This wasn't months and months of planning. This was really sitting down, strategizing over the course of days and weeks how I was going to execute, and then just going and executing. And when you do that, things are going to change on the fly, and you have to be able to handle those changes on the fly. And even in the greatest of times, you can experience some big adversity along the way, and it's all how you look at it. So I decided we were going to sell our house We were going to sell all of our belongings within reason. I mean, not obviously, you know, the things that meant something to us sentimentally, but all of our furniture, one of our cars we sold. We sold, if it was too big, if it didn't fit in a U-Haul, it was gone. It was gone. You know, we threw out probably 2 dumpsters full of miscellaneous stuff that you accumulate when you live in the same home for 20 years. And the plan was go find a vacation rental in Cape Coral, Florida, which is outside Fort Myers, that's already furnished, move in it, get business going, figure out where we really wanted to live, buy a house, all within a year. And that sounds like a lot, but we're ahead of schedule. As of Friday, a week tomorrow, last Friday, we closed on our house here, and
Congrats.
we moved on July 1st. So that's July 1st to the middle of March. So eight months. So we're a couple of months ahead of schedule. In 8 months' time, we were able to execute all of that, and I have business kind of going on par. But it didn't go that way. First of all, we go to hire movers. We go to hire movers to move us, and the movers don't show up. They literally don't show up. I call this moving company in Pompano Beach, Florida, where my wife had booked them online, and they basically said, well, you said when you signed the contract that you put your electronic signature on said the move dates were flexible, and we can modify that by up to a week if we need to. And so I had a lot of words that I said to them that began with F and ended with me renting a U-Haul. And so we rented a U-Haul. We hired movers to pack the U-Haul, so I didn't have to do it myself. We get to our rental in Florida, and we have movers to unpack it, but me being the patient individual I am, decided to get started a day early, and I'm moving boxes off my truck, and I miss the back of the truck. Down to the ground I go, and my already bad back, that was the last straw for it. Next thing you know, I couldn't walk. I was hunched over with a walker. Couldn't walk. I couldn't stand up. I couldn't even stand up to go to the bathroom. And within a couple of weeks, I was in the hospital having my back cut open and having L4, L5 fusion surgery.
Great way to start the new journey, huh?
Oh, great way to start. While that's going on, I'm laying in the hospital recovering from surgery, and my hometown of Kenosha is under it's like a mutiny. It's, you know, the riots are going on. Businesses are burning to the ground, including businesses right near our real estate office in Kenosha, where my partner still is and is still running our team there. People that I've known my entire life have had had everything destroyed. You know, it's this heartbreaking thing to watch. You know, I kind of felt almost a sense of guilt that I got away from it before it happened, if that makes any sense.
Right.
Get through that, get to the holidays, lose my father. And so, you know, a lot of things that could derail you from making it in life were bumps in the road. But, I would think about every single one of those bumps as challenges. And I would think about the fact that overcoming those challenges, even in the here and now, is what's going to make what I'm doing so much more worth it. And it's going to make me so much more successful in the end. After I lost my dad, I'm a Green Bay Packer fan, guys. You can hate me for it, you can love me for it. I know a lot of you over at NAEA are Cowboy fans, but I'm a Brett Favre fan, and I think about what they call Favre's greatest game, which was the game that he played immediately after losing his dad, and how he went out there and he just executed. And I thought about that after losing my dad, and I can't throw a football down a field, 80 yards, but I can list the hell out of some properties. And so I just came back with a vengeance that following week and just started working, and things are really falling into place there, as well as back home in Wisconsin, where my partner Ben has done such a great job of holding down the fort. We talk every single day about plans and strategy. We have Randy, who is he's our mortgage specialist. He's what I call our gold services manager. He handles all of the financing. Plus, he handles
but he's in a completely another part of the country as well, right?
He's in another market. He's in Charleston, South Carolina. Yeah, and he is our leads conversion specialist. So his job is to make sure that he's nurturing all of our leads as they come in through our various sources on social media, on Zillow, our paid reach on Google, coming into our CRM system, and then he is nurturing those leads in addition to the artificial intelligence that we've implemented. And he's the first point of contact with every single one of these buyers, and he's giving them to agents on our team in both markets, plus a couple of other markets when they're ready to look at a property.
Yeah.
Which is one of the reasons for our high success rate in lead conversion. Wouldn't have been able to do any of this if I wouldn't have had those pieces in place. But those pieces in place are pieces you can put in place that you can execute in any market.
Right. 100%. So key. And what I loved was kind of the theme for you going down there, right? You're like, hey, this is going to be the story of being able to overcome. You can go to any market and we're going to document it. We're going to tell the story. And that's where the whole Scratch Agent was born out of.
Yes.
And so I think that having that, knowing that and everything that was happening was like, hey, this is just part of the story. Hey, this is just part of the story. Hey, this is just part of the story. Instead of saying, shit, I'm out.
We're done. Yeah.
All right, I'm done.
Yeah. My back is out. Let's load up the truck and go back to Wisconsin. Let's crawl back into the comfort of the pouch, of the kangaroo pouch, and just go back to what I know, which would have been easy to do, and nobody would have blamed me for making that decision at any step along the way. Everyone would have been like, oh yeah, I get it. You took a shot and things just kind of fell apart and you came home to where things, where things work for you. And
right.
Never once was that a consideration for me. Never.
No, I love it. Hey, I want you, so understanding brand and branding, and man, you had a really rocking thing up in Wisconsin. And you kind of, what is it? The, rip and duplicate, from somebody that, dared people on stage to model after, but yet nobody really did except for you. And you did it at a high level. I would love for you to kind of show, what you were able to do with video and, the power of what you were able to create, and then how that's carrying us into the new market.
I don't know if he knows himself how much credit he gets for this. Actually, they get for it, two people. But Kyle Whistle, who is with eXp Realty now in San Diego, and his production manager, his producer, Brian Cosi, are directly responsible for a lot of the success that we've had. And I first saw Kyle speaking at a Tom Ferry seminar. And at the time, he was an independent broker. He owned Whistle Realty Group in San Diego. I was an independent broker. My partner and I owned Success Realtors in Kenosha, Wisconsin. I had visions of growth, of growing, throughout the country. And those visions themselves kind of pulled me, kind of magnetically attracted me to eXp Realty, which at the same time also attract independently Kyle Whistle to the same company, unbeknownst to either one of us. He didn't even know who I was. He couldn't have even known whether or not I existed at the time. But I reached out to his producer and said, hey, I really love what Kyle's doing. And he's on stage at Tom Ferry saying you need to dominate your market with video, and you're doing such a good job. He had a food show in his market in San Diego called East County Eats. I'm gonna, if you let me screen share, I'm gonna give you a little clip of it. This is his little food vlog that he did.
That looks good. So kind of for everybody listening in that might not know, give them a little bit of backstory on, what Kyle was doing and showcasing, he's a foodie.
I'm gonna unshare for a minute. So we got the infinite Ralph going, and that's gone now. Okay. So the idea is, and by the way, this is very hard for me to sit still and do this because I'm a pace of the room kind of guy. So he's on stage and he's talking about dominating your market with video. And the other thing that Kyle Whistle talked about is he alluded back to Gary V or Gary Vaynerchuk. If anybody knows who that is, give us an F yeah in the comments down below, and then we'll know that you're really a follower of Gary Vaynerchuk. But Gary talked about the fact that you need to dominate your brand with video, and he started doing this in the wine industry the year YouTube came out. He had a show called Wine Library, and he'd just get on with the table and wines and talk about them and taste them, and it was so primitive that if you watched it now, you'd be like, oh my God, this is horrible. But he grew into a multi-million-dollar industry and has become a very respected guy in growing your personal brand. And Kyle gets up and he talks about the fact that you don't want to be a commercial when you're advertising real estate because people fast forward through the commercials. You want to be the show. You want to be the show that people are watching.
Right.
And then you learn how to make your product, your real estate product, the commercials on your own show. You want to give people content that they like for the sake of giving them content, not for the sake of selling anything. So you have to give of yourself completely. And he did it with food. And it just so happened that my wife and I are kind of foodies. We love food. So we're laying in bed one morning on a Sunday doing our Sunday skip church thing that we do every once in a while, being bad parents. You get to do that once in a while. We're watching Kyle whistle on my TV because that's what we watch is how to be better at our business. And I'm watching this, and it like lit up in both of our heads, all the places that we've been and tried and everything else. And so I started to reach out to him. And through that course of reaching out over the course of the next month, suddenly we both found ourselves in the same company. And I found a producer named Kiefer Cool. What a cool name. I hired that guy for his name. I got his resume. I looked at his resume. And I said, if you're any good, I'm hiring you just for your name alone, because, how do you beat that? And we get a hold of Brian, and Brian starts training us. And I said, I want to do the same thing. I'm in the 262 area code. I want to do 262 eats. And I want to feature all the best places to eat. And so Kiefer and Brian started talking. We started filming. Again, we talk about how Gary Vee was very primitive. My stuff was very primitive compared to Kyle's stuff when I first started doing it. Here, give me a share for a second, and I'll show you a little trailer of my first season of 262 Eats. I'm not going to give the whole thing. I'm going to give about 15, 20 seconds to look at it. Let me know when you're ready, John.
Yeah.
All right, let's go.
That looks good.
So yeah, we get that done.
Oh, that's awesome.
We get the whole first season filmed, and there is Infinite Ralph again. We get the whole first season filmed, and we start putting it out there, episodes, and I start thinking, how can I make it bigger? How can I make it better? How can I make it more fun? We start doing live launches. Every time we'd launch a new restaurant, we would go to their restaurant at the time we're going to launch the new episode. We planned it ahead of time. We planned it out 2-3 weeks in advance. We would get T-shirts made up that said 262 Eats and the name of the restaurant that we did. We would announce on Facebook we're going to do a T-shirt giveaway. We're going to do a gift certificate giveaway. Go to this restaurant. Normally we did it on a Wednesday night or a Tuesday night. I would say to the owner, look, what's your deadest night of the year or of the week? What's the night of the week that you don't have a lot of customers? Because I want to prove to you that all those customers are there because of me, and I want to help you. And of course, the question they always ask is, what are you charging me for this? And the answer is nothing. I'm giving. I'm giving credit where credit is due to these amazing places, these amazing local grown mom and pop businesses in my home market, because I want people to enjoy them as much as we do. We'd show up. We would tell people we're going to live release that episode at 8 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock at night, whatever it happens to be. One of them was a sports bar, and they had like 500 screens, and all 500 screens had my ugly mug on it. And we would roll it live on Facebook and YouTube at the same time. I was getting a lot more penetration on Facebook than YouTube, by the way. I would get maybe 100 views on YouTube. I would get 20, 30,000 views within the first week of an episode dropping on Facebook in a town, in a market of only 100,000 people. So that's some sick penetration.
Right.
So we give out T-shirts, of course. I would talk a little bit about who I am and what my business is to people in general when I was there. But then I would take that and I would put that on my real estate page. I would share my 262 Eats on my real estate page. And when I would go out on listings, I would talk to people about the fact that I'm going to do listing walkthroughs the same way I do a restaurant walkthrough. So a restaurant walkthrough would be, I'd stand in front of it. I'd tell people where we are. We would go in the back in the kitchen. We would talk to the chef. Maybe we'd talk to the owner. We'd show how the food was made. We'd interview customers, ask them how they liked it. I'd sample the food. We'd do a very similar approach with your house for sale. I'm going to stand in front of it. I'm going to talk about it. If you're comfortable being on camera, John, then I'm going to ask you questions about why you love your house and why you bought it. We're going to walk through the kitchen. We're going to, make it lively and interactive instead of your same old boring property video. And people liked that idea, and they would list. Then I would take those videos and I would push them out to the 262 Eats audience using what's called dark posts. So I would not post it on 262 Eats page. I would put it on my real estate page, but I would say, put this in the news feed of anybody who likes 262 Eats.
Perfect.
The idea was I didn't want to hurt the brand of 262 Eats. It
That's
has
smart.
to be cool enough that people keep watching it. Instead, it just becomes a commercial. So while all this is going on, and it was really starting to catch fire, I had a podcast that turned into a radio show. I was interviewing local artists. That was growing. So definitely you could see this arc in my social media presence kind of reaching its top. And then COVID happened, and everything kind of fell off like a cliff. Nobody's going to restaurants anymore. The radio station wasn't even allowing us to have guests there, so I couldn't have musicians on. Everything was kind of locked down, and I realized that no matter what, we were going to have to start over.
Yep.
When this all ended. And then I started thinking, if I'm going to start over, if I was going to start my life over anywhere, and it's going to throw a dart at a map and start my life over anywhere, would it be here? And the answer was no. And so
great question.
The second question is, it is a great question. If you had to start your whole life over, nobody knew you, you have a new name, new face, and you don't know anybody, would you start your life over again where you are? Because that's
think about that. So Ralph, before you jump, because you and I were chatting a little bit before this episode, and we were talking about you got to be paying attention. We're talking, real estate markets.
Yes.
You need to be thinking about the market you're in, and are you in a sustainable market, right? And so, this is a great question. Talk a little bit about that, what we were talking about earlier, and the questions you got to be considering, even in the market you're in today.
Yeah. Okay. First of all, let's separate politics from economics, but understand there's a relationship between the two. No matter what happens, no matter who's in power, when geopolitical situations change, the underlying economics change. And there's always winners and losers every time there's a shift. And It's not your job to decide as a business person which philosophy is best. I mean, that you make that determination in the voting booth. Your job as a business person is to see which way the trend is going and how to be out in front of that trend regardless of whether you like it or not. And so, for example, from 08 to 16, during that era, we had the real estate crash of 08, and then we had markets that were just struggling. I was doing a lot of REO work in my market. It's how I survived, REOs and flipping properties.
Me too.
But at that time, there were markets that were booming. North Dakota, for example, was booming. Well, you have the same thing happening right now. You have the situation, COVID and politics have changed everything. And you have markets that are going to grow as a result of this, even in tough economic times. And you have markets that are going to shrink as a result of what's happening. And you can look, again, we talked about North Dakota and oil. Well, right now we can talk about South Dakota and oil, North Dakota and oil, and the fact that that boom is being taken away from them. And at the very same time, people are fleeing to states where people that have wealth are fleeing with their wealth. So in my market, for example, I'm in Southwest Florida. The fourth quarter of 2020, 74% of all residential real estate transactions were cash.
Wow.
That's mind-numbing. 74%. Wow. 3 out of every 4 deals were cash offers. So you have to look at who's doing this. The people moving there aren't people that are dependent on the current economy for their sustainability. They're people who have already amassed their own wealth, and they're looking at a hedge against what's coming. They're looking at places where they're going to be taxed less, and they're going to be able to hang on to their wealth longer and live off of their wealth in the best way possible. So as a result, that market, even as the real estate markets in other areas start to falter, that market's going to be affected differently than a market that's fueled by a jobs economy, Silicon Valley, the Northwest, so on and so forth. And so look at your market and look at the current economic climate, look at the current political climate, how it affects the economic climate, strictly from a business planning perspective, and figure out where is your market headed, and do you want to participate in that market? Just because a market's headed down doesn't necessarily mean you don't want to participate in it. Some of the largest growth that we've experienced in growing market share was in a down market. But know what that market is, know what it holds for you, know whether or not that's what you want to be a part of. And if you're ever thinking about moving markets, now's a good time to evaluate, hey, if I had to change my business all over again, would I create it here or not? And if you find yourself thinking I'd rather create it elsewhere, well, then look at those same factors in that market and decide, is that a good place to set up? And that's kind of what we did. And I also realized that knowing what I know now, you can put me in any market and I can start from scratch and build a presence. Right. It doesn't have to be a place where my family's been for 5 generations and I spent 48 years. It can be a place where I spent 48 hours, 48 months. And so can I grow the same kind of presence that I did there somewhere else where I don't know anybody? And so one of my dreams that I wanted to do back in Wisconsin was a show about beaches and beach towns. And I had no idea I was going to live in one at the time. But I met another influencer inside of EXP who was, she was an MTV star. There you go. Nudy on the beach. And we thought of this idea at EXPCon 2 years ago. I sat and started talking about it. And this idea blew up massively. And I started sketching out ideas for how to do this show. And when I decided to move to Florida, it was like, oh, wow, this just makes it all the more real. I'm going to do a show very similar to 262 Eats, but instead of a very targeted local audience, I want to go for a more global audience. And I want to create a sales funnel that I can apply to any agent in any market. I don't even have to be the agent in that market. I just have to be the supplier of leads to that market, the supplier of sales funnel. And I have to go and find and attract agents who get my vision and can handle the business that I hand them.
Yeah,
because I want to show people the best places to eat, stay, and play in beach towns. And so Nudy on the beach, with a last name like Nudy, I mean, you gotta a name like Kitchens. I mean, you can do a lot with your name too. You got to take advantage of every little thing. And so we launched this. You're going to want to screen share this for a second, John. Let me know when you're sharing.
Yeah, we're sharing. We're good.
Okay, this is a 30-second trailer, so this is not long, but this is the trailer for what we're in the process of filming a pilot for right now.
That's great. I love it. It's one of those things, right? It's one of those things that, when you shared it with me, some things you is like, yes. Right. And as soon as you had said that, I was like, yes. And I remember talking to Jay about it. He was like, holy shit, that is gold. I said, it's amazing. I mean, I'm giddy. I'm so excited for you. And, we went from that concept trailer to filming an entire 3-episode pilot that we're still in the process of. I got to go back for more filming next week and the week after, and then the 3rd week in April. And it's going to be off the chain as far as the quality, the production quality, as well as the content. Quality content and everybody listening in, right? It's also showcasing what Ralph is calling beach-worthy properties.
Beach-worthy properties, absolutely. And those are the properties that I will list. Beach-worthy properties that are worthy of the brand. Now, that doesn't mean they have to be on the beach, but it does mean that they have to be of the quality that you would stay on the beach if that was a house on the beach. It has to be a great house. And so there are other agents that I can hand the less worthy listings to, and that's not a slam on the listings. Or on the property. It is more about creating this brand that when people see that name on it. So I have the Nudy Properties logo that I developed. I've got the Nudy Beachwear logo, which you just held up. Let me see that shirt one more time.
Oh man, I love it. And you guys got to get on board with this Nudy on the beach brand.
Absolutely.
And so talk a little bit about that, right? It's nailing the brand and then, showcasing everything along with it. And like you said, protecting that brand, what does that stand for?
Well, you need to create a personal brand. And I know you and Holly talk about this all the time, but the brand has to mean something to you before it can mean anything to anybody else.
Right.
So you have to create your ideal client, your icon of a perfect client. This was not my idea. This is an idea that has been borrowed from many people. And you have to look at who is your perfect client? What do they do for a living? What's their socioeconomic status? Where do they live? Where do they want to live? Where do they spend their money? How do they spend their money? And will they like what I'm providing for content to them, first of all, and then will they like what I'm providing for product to them? And branding is all about content first, product second. And that's a real big deal for those of us in real estate because we're used to selling product. And when we sell product over and over and over again, and we don't think about content first, we begin to look like we're just shamelessly plugging the product.
Right.
And people run away from salespeople. They run toward product ambassadors, brand ambassadors. So you have to figure out, how can I become a brand ambassador in the eyes of my ideal customer as opposed to a salesperson? People don't like salespeople. They like ambassadors. And so everything has to be brand worthy of your brand. Now, your brand can be anything from the low end to the high end. That doesn't mean that you have to be a luxury property specialist. You can be a person who does just investment properties and flips, and play in that under $100,000 price range in any market, and you can make a ton of money. But what does your brand look like? Is your brand, hey, we're going to take these properties that look horrible and show you how to turn them into something that makes money? I mean, that's been done and it's being done. Look what Than Merrill's done with that idea, with Flip This House.
Right.
And they weren't luxury homes when they started that show. They were, later on they were, but that's the deal with that.
Yeah.
So you have to look at all of that and then decide, what is my brand going to be? And you have to focus on making sure that everything you do fits within that brand. And that takes a lot of strategic thinking to get there. So for me, it is, I want people to walk in. I want my customer icon, my fictitious customer, to be able to walk into any one of my listings and imagine themselves living there, if that's the property that I'm going to present to them. And then I have to present it in such a way. So now what I'm doing, and I wish I'd had the property video ready today. I just filmed a $3.2 million property sitting on the beach in Fort Myers Beach that we're promoting. And people are going to fall in love with this property regardless, but they wouldn't have known about it if we wouldn't have presented it to them in the way that we're presenting it to them. And so we spent 4 hours shooting one property to make sure that everything is right, because my product isn't the property itself. My product is my presentation of it. One of the things that we've talked about, and I hope this isn't too big of a segue, is when I go to a listing presentation where I'm teaching an agent to sell, I tell them there's 5 P's to getting anything sold, whether it be real estate or anything else: product, price, presentation, promotion, and prospecting. Product is the one thing you have no control over in real estate as the agent, other than whether or not you're going to take that product on.
Right.
So I go through this with the client. I go through pricing and how price and product are completely connected. They're inversely connected. If there's a deficiency in the product, they're tagged directly to each other. If it's a superior product, how you price that out. The third P is presentation. That is my product. How we present your product is our product. So presentation, promotion, and prospecting, those 3 P's are the 3 that I have the control over. We start with presentation. And so one of the things that I show them, let's go to this. Yeah, I'm going to show it here.
Okay, cool.
So I'm going to skip past product for a second here and just kind of skip over it. Price. And I use non-real estate examples when I'm doing my presentation because I want people to get a visual on the concept and not get tied up in the real estate, whether the houses they're looking at are better or worse than theirs. All right. But when I get to presentation, I use this.
I love it.
And I explain to them, Burger King spends millions of dollars on their marketing. They make sure that their photograph of the Whopper looks like the one on the left when you're driving down the road and you see that on a billboard. But the fact of the matter is, when they unwrap it and they get the one on the right, they go ahead and they eat it anyway because it still falls within the product guidelines of what they're expecting, a semi-tasty hamburger. This is what it is. And yet real estate agents go out and they use their iPhones, or maybe they invest in a nicer camera, but they don't really know how to do professional real estate photography. And there's a lot of nuances to professional real estate photography. If you are going to take the pictures yourself, you should be using a service like Box Brownie that shows you how to professionally edit the pictures so that they look right. But I don't even bother with that because I'm not a photographer. I'm a marketer. I'm a real estate salesperson. I'd rather hire the expert. And the last thing I say on this slide when I'm talking to the potential client is if the real estate professional who is going to list your house gives your house less regard than a hamburger, you probably picked the wrong person. Because I want that to stick in their head, how important that is. And then I take them through the before and afters. I take them through the show itself and give them a screenshot of it and explain to them what it is we do and how we retarget. I explain to them how our CRM system works, how our lead capture works, how our artificial intelligence works. I show them a screenshot of how many buyers I have in my pipeline right now and how I can do reverse search to see if any are a match for their property on day one. And then I talk about prospecting and explain to them that this is the one thing that most agents do the least of. And I explain to them about lead fatigue, which if you're interested in knowing more about lead fatigue and product and how that ties in, then you definitely need to either get with John and get on their site or get on Scratch Agents University, because it's really important that you understand how to overcome lead fatigue as a salesperson. Lead fatigue is the number one reason salespeople fail when they start doing marketing. And that is where you get a bullshit lead, you get another bullshit lead, you get a third bullshit lead, you get a fourth bullshit lead, and then you're at dinner with your family and a good lead comes in and you're eating dinner and you say to yourself, all right, I'm going to call this person after dinner, and you don't, and you throw the proverbial baby out with the bathwater.
Right.
Because you got jaded because of all the leads that weren't any good, because you weren't using artificial intelligence and systems to handle those leads in the first place. If you don't do that, I don't care who you are, it's human nature. You're going to let leads fall through the cracks because of the bad leads that you've gotten in the past.
Right.
You have to overcome that. So it's a little bit of a segue, but it all plugs in. You have to have systems. My system is really simple, honestly. It is put out content, quality content that attracts people. Take those people you've attracted, market to them the product you want them to see, let that turn into leads, and then use a good filtering system and good people that run those systems to filter those leads into actual prospects and work only with prospects.
That's it. I love it.
That's the bottom line when it comes to that. But the second thing agents are always talking about now is side hustles, right? You hear this?
Yes.
You've been hearing about side hustles for agents?
All of them. Always trying to get a side hustle.
Listen, do not get into a side hustle unless that side hustle has a direct positive impact on your real estate business. All you're doing if you do that is you're diluting yourself. Now, that being said, you can get into any side hustle you want. You can drive Uber as a side hustle and have that have a positive impact on your real estate business. I know I've already started doing that, and I'll probably go back to doing it. I just don't have the time right now. But I have my flip down screens playing my Nudy on the Beach trailers. I've got Nudy on the Beach gift cards ready to give out. I got brochures of properties stuck in the back pockets of the vehicle that I'm driving if I'm driving Uber. And I'm only picking people up in areas where I know I got a high likelihood of interacting with people that are going to be moving into the area. Now, that's a side hustle that's worthy. And I use that as an example. Whatever your side hustle is, it's got to be worthy of your brand. Yep. And what you're doing. So my side hustle is my own personal brand. And that's what it should be. Everything you do should be furthering your brand. So if I'm going to be Nudy on the beach and I'm going to have Nudy properties, I'm going to have Nudy vacation rentals because we're doing vacation rental management. Well, then people need to look good doing it. Let me see that shirt again, John.
Yeah, buddy. Hey, I want you to show the site because I want everybody to listen. I want you guys to go get your Nudy on the beach gear.
Nudy on the beach gear. I'm going to screen share here. NudyBeachwear.com.
Yeah, man. You guys go get you some gear.
I mean, even babies look good with a Nudy onesie.
That's awesome.
But this is the kind of thing. Now I use these as giveaways too. So we're going to be walking up and down the beach during spring break, and we're going to be giving away tank tops to people that are beach worthy.
That's it.
So even the people we're giving it away with have to be beach worthy. All right, I'm coming back in. More Infinite Ralph. Woo! All right. So that's the bottom line is find your own personal brand and define it. And if you're not having fun with it, then scrap it and do another one because it's got to be fun or you're not going to keep engaging in it. You know, that's the key to being successful in your work is making your work so much fun that you love it so much that anytime you take a break from your work, you can't wait to get back to it. Your work
Right.
should feel like that's one of the reasons I picked a place to live where I feel like I'm living on vacation. Because right now we're on vacation, and I can't wait to go back home to be on vacation from my vacation.
Right.
And I can't wait to get back to working in this, showing people amazing places where they can live. There's an island near us called North Captiva. You can only get there by boat. I've been showing properties on there to clients lately. I love the fact that you can only get there by boat. That means that I'm going to kidnap these buyers. I'm going to take them either on the ferry or on my boat, preferably on the ferry. That way they can't say anything about my captain skills. Take them on the ferry out to the island, hop in a golf cart, show them a couple of properties, take them to lunch, take them back. That's how when I do work with buyers, and I don't work with as many buyers as I used to, and I've increased my team members. I now have 4 buyer agents on the team. As I increase the buyers on my team, the buyer agents, I should say, on my team, I would decrease the number of buyers that I work with because there'll only be buyers that fit that profile.
Right.
100%. Literally, I don't want to be working with buyers now unless I could potentially film that experience and people go, oh, that looks like fun. That's the criteria for, am I going to work with these people or not?
Yep.
So the customers have to be fun. What they're looking for has to be interesting enough. And I know some of you are watching that thinking this is a bunch of bullshit. Work can't always be fun and games, and it isn't. It takes a lot of hard work and a lot of hard planning to get to that point. And I still have to take some of the clients that I don't want to right now, but eventually, as I continue to grow, I'll have agents that are happy to take those clients because they don't have any. And now I've plugged them into a system that all they have to do is follow along with the accountability that we've put in place for them. And they might not have a marketing mind. There are a lot of people who are very successful salespeople that don't have a marketing mind. Those are the people that you want to add to your team all day long because they will understand what it is you're doing for them in addition to what it is they're doing for you.
Yeah,
it's a complete symbiotic relationship.
Right.
It really is. But you can, if being out of the trenches is what you want, you can do it and still be successful.
The thing, you mentioned there, Ralph, though, I mean, that's one of the key tenets to true motivation, right? Is doing something that is fun and something you love, right? That's really some of the positive motivation, and a lot of people struggle with finding the motivation because they're not doing something that's fun and they're not doing something that they love. And so,
right.
I think, like for you getting in and designing, starting over and what you wanted it to look like, it had to check those boxes, right? It say, hey, this has got to be fun and I got to love it or I'm out. I'm just not going to do it. And I think that's really, really key. So, people can think, well, I can't do that, but that's bullshit because yes, you can. And that's exactly what you're doing.
You can do it. I have started a coaching site with John's help. And I'm helping people get there for free. It's not a site where you have to pay for coaching, and that's Scratch Agents University. So I'm going to give them a quick screenshot of scratchagents.com. And if you're interested in any of this stuff, you can also find me on Facebook, and you can add me or direct message me. But this is in collaboration with NAEA. And so what I'm doing is I'm tapping into all the expert advisor classes, plus adding a bunch of my own on how to dominate your market from scratch, how you can walk into any market that you've never been in before, establish a presence, and dominate that market without knowing anybody or anything about that market in the beginning. Obviously, you have to do your homework so you know enough about the market to get your business started by the time you get there. But in there, we're documenting this journey. I've got a lot of my early Zoom calls with John that I'm in the process of editing the little clips out where I'm looking at John going, John, what did I do? I can't believe I did. and we've had that conversation a couple of times.
Couple times.
Yeah. It's to say that it's not scary and that it's this kind of confidence every moment of every day is a lie. And I don't want people to get this false impression that I'm out there making you think that it's easy every step of the way. It's not easy, but it is simple.
Yeah.
And there's a difference between simple and easy. You know, lifting weights isn't easy, but it's simple.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing. It's not a matter of this complicated formula to figure out how to get that barbell off your chest and pump it 6 times. It's making sure you just have a weight that's not too much weight and getting in enough reps that you get stronger to add to it. And this is the same thing. You got to look at, and patterning. Patterning is super important. Role modeling is super important. You know, I didn't do this from scratch. You know, we go back to the very beginning. I took a look at what Kyle Whistle was doing, and I loved his approach to the business. Not that he was doing the amount of business that I wanted to do. Sure, that was part of it. But there are a lot of agents that were doing the business that I want to do, maybe even more business, but their approach didn't fit my lifestyle goals. They didn't fit my personality profile.
Okay.
They didn't fit what I wanted to be and do. So you've got to find somebody. I might not be it. You might be watching me thinking, man, I would never want to stand in front of a camera like this clown here. You might be, if that's the case, and that's not you, that's cool. What you got to do is you got to find somebody who's doing business at the level that you want to do business at and doing it in a way that you would be happy doing it. And you need to role model them. You need to copy the hell out of them. Hopefully with their help and permission if there's somebody that's giving. That's one of the great things about this great experiment we call EXP Realty that we're in is now I've got 45,000 agents across the whole country, and the brightest minds in the business, the smartest person in the room isn't actually in the same room as me. They're in another market, and they're more willing to share what they're doing as a result of that.
Right.
And so tap into people that are willing to share. Hire a coach, find some people you can role model with. Do the strategic planning, the thought, you know, the sketching out what you want it to look like, and then execute. Your back went out, you had surgery, tough shit, execute. Your dad died, tough shit, execute. Your city's burning down to the ground and you're depressed about it, tough shit, buck up, execute. And that's the hardest part.
Yeah.
That is the hardest part, is sometimes wiping away the tears from the pain that you're feeling, whether it be physical or emotional or whatever it is, and saying the only way I'm going to get through this is to push through this and keep looking at that vision on the other side of it, and have the confidence to know that you're going to get there on the other side. Hey, I'm not there yet, but I can see the trajectory and know that if I just keep pushing with this kind of confident expectation that it'll happen, that the next time we have this conversation, there'll be even more of a story to tell people. And the next time after that, there'll be more of a story still. And you don't have to find somebody who's exactly where you want to be in order to get there. You just have to find somebody who's further along than you in the process and who you feel is going there. And if you can pattern a couple of people like that and follow them along the way, and that person might change. You might outgrow the person you were originally following. I think that's very common. Those are my two of my kids, and that is a view of the sunset from the dock of our home that we just closed on last Friday. Yeah.
When you need that reminder of what you're doing, this picture sums everything up, right? And I appreciate you sharing that with me. When the tough time hits, right, you got to anchor back into the vision and really what truly is important. And man, this picture says a lot.
That picture says everything.
That's awesome.
It really does.
So good. So good. Oh man. Ralph, I love it, man. Thank you for jumping in, adding a ton of value, sharing, being an open book, and really, letting everybody out there know that if you're not, in a market or where you want to be, that you're not a tree. And you can make that move and design a better life, not only for you, but for those that matter the most. And you guys listening in, make sure you guys give Ralph some love, get plugged in, get over to Nudy Beachwear, get you some gear, and
Nudy on the beach.
With Ralph.
Go to nudyonthebeach.com. If you go to nudyonthebeach.com, there's links to all of my social media there, our Facebook channel, our Instagram page. Our Facebook page, our Instagram page, our Facebook channel, so on and so forth. Go like and follow all of that stuff. If you're an agent and you want to know more, please feel free to drop me a direct message. I respond to everybody's message as quickly as I can in real time when I'm doing it. I love helping other people. It's what motivates me to help myself even further. And the more I bring people up, the more I know I have to continue to rise above in order to keep pulling people up with me. It's one of the things that motivates me that we didn't talk about is having people count on what I'm doing to help them get to their next level. I know you and I have talked about this personally. It's deeply personal to me to be able to help people. And even if you're not planning on leaving your market, but you want to hit the reset button in your own market and start rebuilding your business and rethinking it from scratch, this is still something for you to look at. It really is. If you're in a town and you love where you were born and raised, and you feel like you haven't done a good enough job of conveying that to other people who live there, you take your passion for your area and make that your product, and your business, your real estate business, will absolutely grow exponentially, regardless of whether it's somewhere new or somewhere you've been your whole life.
Yep. 100%. I love it. Ralph, thank you, brother. Been fantastic. I know we'll have to do it again, and appreciate all of you guys listening in, and we'll catch you guys on the next episode.
Thanks, Sean.
See you, bud.
Bye.